Jill from Kids Baking Club, and while we're at home, I wanted to have some fun with the kids and parents by bringing you into the kitchen for some learning. We're going to make a fruit cobbler today. So what I wanted to first tell you about is if you have not downloaded our free cookbook that's specifically kid-tested recipes called Kids Can Bake, just click the link below or go to kidsbakingclub.com. So you guys ready to get started? We're gonna make some fresh fruit cobbler. So you can actually use any kind of fruit. Today I'm going to use nectarines and strawberries, but any fruit. But citrus fruits like lemons, oranges, and limes, probably not the best, but anything like apples, pears, peaches, strawberries, any type of berry would be wonderful. So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to be using some strawberries that I got at the market. Remember with strawberries, you don't want to wash them until you're ready to use them. Actually, if you wash them and put them in the fridge, they actually start to spoil. So it's best to just keep them the way you found them from the grocery store, then wash them. And I'm just going to use my safety knife and cut off the tops. And then you always want to plant it on a flat surface so it doesn't roll around. It's hard to cut when it rolls. So you want to get it on a flat surface, hold it in one hand, and always keep your knife away from your fingers. So I'm just going to cut here. And you kind of want big pieces because you want it to be nice and chunky. So I'm going to finish those up. When you're done with those, you're going to put them in a bowl. I'm going to move on to the nectarines. Now with the nectarines, you might be able to cut with a safety knife, but I'm going to use another safety knife, always making sure you're just holding the handle. And do you see how it's rolling? I want to find the part where it doesn't roll, and that's right here. Then I want to hold it, and I want to go to the side. Now this fruit has a pit, so I'm going to cut around the pit like this. And see how I kept away? And then I want to, again, find the flat surface and cut small little pieces. And we're going to go ahead and cut all these pieces of fruit. And then what I'm going to do after I put all the fruit inside, I'm going to take any type of sugar, either maple syrup, honey, a little bit of sugar, because I want something that when it heats up in the oven, that's going to crystallize and bind to the other fruit. Otherwise, it'll be a little too juicy. So when I'm all finished, I'm going to drizzle on some honey and mix it up, and then we're going to move on to making our cobbler topping. All right, all our fruit is done. Now we're just going to mix it up a little bit. Make sure you put down in the comments, I want to see what kind of fruit you guys used. So go ahead and take whatever sugar you're going to use. I'm using honey. Just going to squeeze a little bit on, not too much, just enough that it binds. All right, this is going to go into a pan like this, any pan that you want, as long as it's a baking pan. And now we're ready to make the topping. We are ready to make our cobbler topping. I do want to talk to you about butter, because butter comes in sticks like this, and they come with 8 tablespoons, which is also a half of a cup. And this recipe calls for 6 tablespoons. So what you need to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just like I did here, and you're going to cut that out. So I'm going to use that part. It also talks about putting them into cubes. So taking a safety knife, you're just going to cut them into cubes, and you want to keep the butter cold until you're ready to use it. So I actually cut this butter up before I even made the fruit, so I had it nice and cold. So I'm going to set this aside for just a second, and we're going to start on our flour. So measuring cups come like this, and most often they actually have on there what this is. This is 1 cup, and this is a half a cup. Now, how many cups of half a cups do you think I need to make 1 cup? You're right, 2 cups. 2 half cups make 1 cup, but this recipe is interesting because it's 1 cup and 1 half cup. So when you put your flour in your flour bowl, you want to bring it all the way to the top, but you want to make sure that it's level. So I always use the back side of a knife and score it so I have a perfect measurement. So that's my 1 cup. And this is my half cup. Get a heaping, then score it, and then put it in there. Okay, we got that done. Now this has just a little bit of sugar, so I'm not gonna use a measuring cup, I'm actually gonna use measuring spoons. And once again, they come in different sizes. Now this is a little tricky because this one is actually 1 teaspoon and this is 1 tablespoon. So 1 teaspoon will say usually TSP and 1 tablespoon will usually say TBS. So make sure that you can see it. Now you can see that the 1 teaspoon is a lot smaller. This one calls for 3, oh my goodness, that happens, 3 tablespoons of sugar. So usually you don't have to do a level because unlike flour, you can level it off. I'm gonna sprinkle it. I always sprinkle my ingredients on top so they don't clump in one place. Sprinkle 2 and 3. All right, and now I'm going to use some baking powder. We love baking powder because baking powder is called leaven, and what it does is when it hits heat and moisture, it starts to rise. It's really cool. And this is asking for 1 teaspoon and 1/2. So this is my 1 teaspoon. And this is great because it's got a little lever here so I can score it really easy. I'm going to dump that in, and it calls for 1/2 teaspoon. So here's my 1/2. And dump that in. Now, I want to remind you, if you have your baking powder right here, you've got to stir it. If you don't stir it, then it's just going to clump right there. So I'm going to take my whisk or a spoon, and I'm going to make sure that it's stirred really, really well. Now, this recipe also calls for 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Some people don't like having a lot of salt, so you don't have to put it in. And I'm actually not going to because this was salted butter. Butter comes in either salted or unsalted, but you'll see on the recipe, which you can get at kidsbakingclub.com, that it calls for salted butter. So I'm gonna take my butter and I'm gonna dump it in my thing. And this is the fun part because you get to use your hands. So you're gonna take your hands and you're going to make it into small little pea size. All right, as you can see, I made the butter into small pea size shapes. So now that's gonna be nice and good to actually mix with our liquid. So now we're gonna work on the liquid. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some milk, and you can use any type of milk. You can use almond milk, dairy milk, cow milk, any kind of milk you want. So we're gonna do 6 tablespoons. So we're gonna do 1, 2, count with me, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're gonna add a little bit more honey just to give it a little sweetness too. I know we added a little bit of sugar, but I'd like to add a little bit more honey. Just a little squeeze, like that. And we're gonna do a teaspoon of vanilla. It's best to use pure vanilla. That's a pure extract, it's not imitation, it comes from a vanilla bean, and it gives it a lot of flavor. This recipe calls for just egg yolk, which is the fat of the egg. So what you're going to do is you're going to just go ahead and do that. If you need your parents' help, ask them for help. Use your 2 thumbs, and you're just gonna let the egg white drip out. And now you just have the yolk, okay? You can save the egg white for your omelet. Now what we're just gonna do is we're gonna mix this together, and we're gonna add it to our dry ingredients. And what I always do when I'm adding wet ingredients to dry ingredients is I put it in the middle. So I make like a little well, get a little honey on there, like a little well, and then I do it in the middle, just so the ingredients don't go to the sides. And then you're just going to take a spoon and mix it till it becomes a dough. And then we're gonna get our fruit and we're gonna plop our dough. Now, at this time, you should preheat your oven. It takes about 15 minutes to preheat. So go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You always wanna put baked goods in a preheated oven. All right, we're ready to put this on top of our fruit. All right, now I'm going to just do little plops so everyone gets a little piece of the dough plus the fruit.